And this is part 2 of my speculations about Halloween Horror Nights 27, picking up right where I left off in the previous video, which exceeded a half hour, so I had to start over again, because I don't know how big a video I can make on YouTube, and I don't want to make it too big, because it might not upload. So this is my second part. Go see part 1 first. I've talked about all sorts of ideas for haunted houses in the previous video, who I thought might be an icon, all that kind of stuff. I'm continuing haunted house speculation. I'm talking about television programs that might be IPs. Now, television programs, I mentioned The Exorcist just in passing now. And here are some rather crazy ideas. But there's a possibility because the connection to Universal. Again, getting a right to an IP, that's you have to pay the rights and get them from some other company is much more complicated. But if Universal controls the rights to some degree, it's a little easier. And Sci-Fi is owned by Universal. A Sharknado house! Yes, I'd love to see that, but I doubt that'll ever happen. Oh. We had Sharknado at Universal Studios. Part 3 was filmed there, right? And you saw Bruce come to life and eat Jerry Springer. Oh. Oh my God. I'd love to see Sharknado come, but again, that's just me being silly. That's more like something for an April Fool's joke. So skip over that. And Sci-Fi, there's a TV program on Sci-Fi right now called Channel Zero, Candle Cove. First series is Candle Cove. The next series, the next season will be called The No End House. A totally different story, a totally different scenario. So it's going to be a rather interesting program indeed. But this first one is based on the creepypasta Candle Cove, which is actually written by one guy. It wasn't really, and he did sort of a little bit of a short story done in the form of internet forums. It took on a life of its own on the internet. He didn't mind, let it go and be something wild on the internet. But based on his work, they made a TV program, and it came with some really neat ideas about the mysterious TV program and what caused it and what happens to people when they watch it, when they're kids. And it's been a really fascinating show, and it's creepy as fuck. Oh my God, there's all sorts of possibilities for haunted houses here. You could go into Candle Cove with all those wacky characters and the cave, the brave cave, horrible things, and the more horrifying versions of these creatures and murderous characters. Oh my God, there's all sorts of character boo-hos, jump scares, awful shit, Tooth Child, all of that. Ugh, make a creepy as hell house. I would love to see a Candle Cove house. I don't know if they'll do it. But again, maybe it's a really unlikely, but my God, it's on Sci-Fi. Universal owns Sci-Fi, therefore, there's a good chance with corporate synergy and all, they might be able to pull it off. The other one is also a program that's controlled by Universal, but it's a rather weird and totally out there, off-the-wall, crazy idea I have, which will probably never happen. The only slightly remote possibility, and it's just completely long shot on my part, but it is controlled by Universal. There's a program called Mr. Robot. Now, it's a really weird, twisted show, but a haunted house at Horror Nights, that would make no sense. You just couldn't do a Mr. Robot haunted house. But in the most recent season of Mr. Robot, there was a show within a show, which was a slasher film from the 80s that only exists on the show. A slasher movie called, rather stupid title, The Careful Massacre of the Bourgeoisie. Sounds like a weird French art film to me. As a matter of fact, the title was a parody of the discreet life of the bourgeoisie, which is a totally surreal, weird, twisted film. Not a horror film, but kind of odd. Luis Buñuel made. Spanish film, actually. I think. He might have made it in French. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I saw that. It's surrealism. But this is a slasher. It's an 80s slasher parody. And there's little bits of it that are available. You can see like the first 10 minutes of it online. It's all they filmed of it. It's just, there's a mad slasher, just like in the 80s with a mask. He's wearing a mask like the Monopoly Man, you know, the millionaire. And he wants to kill rich kids because they're bastards. And awful kids, you know, it's in the 80s, they're snorting cocaine, being awful, hedonistic, you know, materialistic, egocentric. Sounds like, I won't say that because politics, but awful kids. and he comes in and he kills him with a croquet mallet, and it's just what you see is just typical 80s slasher movie stuff. Even the girl gets her top taken off and she's running with her tits bouncing up and down. It's like, oh my god, just really excessive and awful 80s horror movie parody. And they could, they didn't make the full movie, but they could do a house based on that fictional movie inside the TV series called Mr. Robot Presents the Careful Mask of the Bourgeoisie, and it's a house based on a movie that never existed, and they could create the movie themselves and have all kinds of wild scenes and stuff about this killer, and it would be just as good as any Halloween or Freddy Krueger or Jason house, because it's a parody of those kind of films. And they could just go all out, imagination, craziness, killing the rich kids in all sorts of, amusing ways. So, again, I really don't think that would ever happen. It's totally off the wall, completely crazy. It's not well known, unless you watch Mr. Robot, and if you're, I guess it's a hit show in some ways, but it's not exactly something that the whole general public watches. I think it's just sort of has a cult audience of stupid, geeky nerds like me. But God, it would be a hysterical house, I think. Even if no one gets exactly what it's referencing, they'd still get the 80s slasher vibe, so they'd understand that much at least. Anyway, that's the IPs I've been thinking about. Some of them very likely, some not so likely, and some hit or miss. Who knows? And I think there's a possibility some of those IPs will be. So what about original houses, Jimmy? Well, that's hard to call, damn it. Because original houses, of course, could be anything. Could be anything at all. I mean, you never know what to expect. I mean, who could have called Ghost Town coming back? Or Tomb of the Ancients. That's like one of the best houses this year. And it's completely crazy. I mean, Egyptian gods with, Aztec mixed in together, and they show up. And, it's like, oh my God. It's like, who expected that? So what could the original houses be? It could be anything at all. But I have a few ideas based on rumors that have been going around for years, and the fact is, sort of original. I guess you might think of it as an IP because it is based on work, but it's not based on films or television, but based on fiction, literature. So, Poe was Nevermore was considered an original house. So, and they've been saying for years and years and years that they are planning at someday do a Lovecraft house. And there was a big rumor this year there might be a Lovecraft house. In fact, the Scare Zone, Dead Man's Wharf, really felt Lovecraft. It was supposed to have kind of Poe associations with Annabelle Lee, but really it was more like Deep Ones or something. Those crusty, those they look like fishmen, even if they had barnacles on them. They had a sort of Shadow over Innsmouth vibe to it. They could do a house legitimately based on the Shadow over Innsmouth that would rock. I'd love to see that. What was rumored last year apparently was at the Mountains of Madness, actually. That might be, or maybe wait for Guillermo del Toro to eventually make the movie and then do an IP house. I don't know. It could take forever waiting for him. He has plans to make 1,500 films at once, and then which one will he actually make? And he goes completely off the wall and makes one he never even thought he was making. So you don't know what he's going to do. He's been talking about making that Lovecraft movie the past 10 years. So who knows? And, Iola says when the time is right. When will that be? When the stars are right. With Donald Trump in office, the stars are right. Cthulhu's rising. Ah! Sorry. Politics. Didn't mean to go there, but I couldn't help it. So then, a Lovecraft house could be awesome. There's all sorts of Lovecraft things they could use. Well, they might do a little bit of a mishmash, like Poe, and have different bits and pieces. Do some Cthulhu here, and do some of Innsmouth, and do Mountains of Madness in another scene, another room. Maybe have something from, the Whisper in the Darkness. Have some of the fungi from Yuggoth, and Shub-Niggurath, and all the Neo-Arthur-Hotep. No, Nyarlathotep. That's an old joke from when I played Call of Cthulhu. A mysterious Anglo-Egyptian man named Neo-Arthur-Hotep shows up. Gives some strange advice. Yeah, who's he really? Wonder. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. Oh yes, Nyarlathotep. They could do all kinds of nifty stuff for the Lovecraft house. It's endless possibilities there. I would love to see Lovecraft come at last. Sequel houses to previous houses. Nightingales is brought up all the time. Yes. Very well could be. Another one, though, a recent franchise they started, Giggles and Gore Incorporated. I heard a rumor when that came out that it was meant to be the first of a trilogy of houses. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, we might see Giggles and Gore 2 one of these days soon, and that would be very interesting to continue that storyline. You could do a lot with that. Then, of course, they could also, and of course, if Eddie is the icon, there would be an icon house featuring him. And what would that be? Just another run house? Or maybe they would drop the whole run concept altogether and give Eddie a very different house that has to do more with who Eddie is and how he became Eddie in the first place. There's all kinds of things you could do there that have nothing to do with the run concept. I would like that. I would like something totally original and creative. But I'm certain that amongst the houses next year there'll be something really completely, utterly original that no one could possibly call, because how would you know what they're doing? You know, that's you know, always speculated. You know, they did Hades, they did Tomb of the Ancients, there's some Egyptian gods. I'd love to see something based on Norse mythology someday. You know, call it Ragnarok and Roll or something. You know, have some death metal band from Scandinavia who are actually, you know, call upon the, you know, bring about the end times, and Loki rises up with all of the, you know, Fenrir and the Jörmungandr. That is, for those who don't know, that's the Midgard serpent. You know, the Ouroboros guy. All of these creatures, and then of course suddenly showing up as Thor and Odin, and they get killed because it's Ragnarok. It could be quite horrifying if you do it right, especially if they blare Norwegian death metal through the whole house. That would be awesome. So I don't know, totally original scat house of some kind, probably. And how many original houses to IPs? I think it'll probably be the same, basically. You know, maybe 5 or 6 IPs versus 3 or 4 originals. Hopefully at least 3 originals and not down to 2. I'd hate that, but that'd be nice. 10th house, who knows? Repository coming back in a new form, maybe. They'd probably charge less than $50 to get in if they do it. I hope so, because I think there was a lot of feedback on that. You know, maybe $25 to $30 is better than $50. Make it a bit longer, have, you know, a longer and more frightening virtual reality part to it. You know, I saw the original company, some of the work they did, the company that did the VR for them, and they did some photorealistic shit. You know, the graveyard scene in the repository. Okay, it was creepy, and those floating phantoms were kind of neat, especially after they tweaked them and they were more frightening with the horns and the eyes all glowing and everything. But what if instead of floating phantoms, not those phantoms, I mean the cemetery was the big shapes, the black shapes with little red eyes. Scarier the first time they did those, back in the thing they did in 2015, which I'm not supposed to talk about, but now that they've got the repository out in the open, I can say, yeah, it was a beta for that. When they first did it, of course, you're alone, and they were creepier and scarier, and you had no idea what was going to happen as it encircled and surrounded you, and you thought, oh fuck, I'm dead. Second time, you know, you're with another person, and you've already survived 2 things, and so when they show up, you're not really scared at all when they start coming toward you in the cemetery. But what if in that cemetery, and you were there by yourself, and it looked more real, if suddenly out of the graves came living dead zombies, but far more realistic than any scare actor in a Walking Dead house, bits falling off, you know, obviously, you know, you can see through parts of the bones are sticking in, organs, stuff pouring out, photorealistic, awful zombies coming out, coming right toward you, ready to bite and eat your flesh. That would fucking creep a lot of people out, I think, and be a lot better. So if they do the repository, something like that again, with the VR component, make it fucking scary and make it longer. You know, not just 10 minutes in VR, make it 20 minutes in VR, make it freaking awesome. That would be awesome, I think. I do like the way the actors interacted with you in the house. That was good, and the actor they can grab you. You know, I got a really good scare when the lunatic reached out from under the desk and grabbed my ankle. And that was, hey, oh fuck. You know, that was nifty. Wasn't expecting that. I was like, shit. So, but again, I don't know if they'll even bother with that next year. You know, I don't know how well this was received this year and whether they're going to put in the effort and the budget to do another one next year. That remains to be seen. They may decide that's not going to work. You never know. As for scare zones, who can say? Scare zones are always quite original. I have some ideas, silly ones. Vamp 55 was a huge hit, and I've heard a lot of speculation. People are, do a house, man, Vamp 55 the house. And they're all thinking about Vamp 55. That's all well and good, but what if they continue the concept but move through the decades? The vampires are immortal, right? And they could change with the years. So, what if they do another scare zone next year, but instead of Vamp 55, it's Vamp 69, dude! And it takes place at a music festival with hippies and flower children. Woodstock, basically. Put it in Central Park instead of the same kind of zone we've always got in Central. Now you've got like this, and you got all that music playing. You know, all those. That's what made the zone so awesome. Is it brought back nostalgia? People who enjoy the music. That, you know, you have to be kind of in your 70s to really like them, to remember high school in the 50s. But there are more people, younger people, who can remember the music of the 60s. I can remember music of the 60s when I was a little kid, and if someone's a little bit older than me can actually remember being a teenager or in their 20s during the 60s, and they can hear, oh yeah, man, that's you know, Jimi Hendrix, or, you know, oh, you know, a bit of, what's her name? Damn it, I can't remember the name. But you can play, you know, play music played at Woodstock. Damn it, I hate when I forget the name. You know, Pearl. That's not her name, but that was the persona. You know, Paved Paradise, put up the parking lot. What was her name? Damn it. I'm going to have to see if I can find it here. Is it? Janis Joplin. I knew I'd do it. I just typed in Jimi Hendrix and then typed in Jim Morrison, and sure enough, Janis Joplin came up next because they all died at the same time. You could have some Doors in there too. You could have some all kinds of music from that era. You could have all that that trippy psychedelic music of the 60s and Flower Children. Maybe even some Beatles. I don't know if they could get away with that. It's pricey to use Beatle music. But you could have all of that kind of stuff playing, and it's, you know, and all of that LSD and all of that, and there's vampires of the 60s. That'd be awesome, you know. Herb, everything you could imagine from that. Then if they continue that, in 2018, they could do a scare zone in New York and call it Vamp 77. And it's like Studio 54, and you have Andy Warhol and, you know, and the Village People, and you know, John Travolta in a white suit, and it's disco vampires from the 70s. You know, can you imagine Village People vampires doing YMCA while they bite you, and all that music, the disco music. You'd have, you know, Let's Dance the Last Dance. What's the one that was in the vampire movie from the 70s, the Dracula comedy? It was I Love the Nightlife. Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome. You have all of that playing, you know, Staying Alive, Staying Alive. It'd be hysterical to have that. You know, have all of these 70s disco vampires. So let's keep that up, man. We could do Vamp 69 next year, Vamp 77 the year after that, and then maybe, you know, Vamp 85 with, like, you know, we could have like, you know, 80s glam rock music like Motley Crue and Poison and Rat and all of that, and do that sort of thing. I think that would be better. I know I was thinking maybe, you know, that sort of new wave stuff, David Bowie and Michael Jackson, but no, I think it'd be better if they had 80s music like the hair band stuff from the 80s. That would be truly hysterical and would fit. You know, you could do like a heavy metal, the glam heavy metal of the 80s, Motley Crue, you know, all of that as a vampires. Maybe put that in Hollywood again for Vamp 85. 90s, I don't know. Grunge music. You'd have like Kurt Cobain vampire. You know, I don't know where they could put that, but that would be exactly it. You know, Pearl Jam, all that kind of stuff, Seattle stuff. That would be funny. Yeah, they could do that for a few years. It'd be awesome. Just keep doing the vampires through the decades of the 20th century. Oh. Silly idea, but I like that. So that's some of my Scare Zone you know, that's more wishful thinking and speculation. Who knows what the Scare Zones could be? They could be damn near anything. Shows, well, unless, you know, the apocalypse comes, and maybe it will, Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure game, pop culture. God knows, I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of shit they can parody, you know. Because pop culture is not getting any less sane. Politics is not getting any less sane. Internet is not getting any less sane. There's going to be a shitload of material that they can make another awesome Bill and Ted show, especially if, like this past year, Sharon writes part of it, or maybe all of it. Hey, let Jason give the whole script to Sharon. I think it would be awesome. Let her have a bigger role, too, I'd say. She's just brilliant. She's like my opera diva. You know, they say it's not over till the fat lady sings. It's not over till she goes, yeah, she's got the heh. She's got an awesome head. I can't do it, especially with this cold, but, you know. She's brilliant. Love her. Brava. You know, I think she could make the show awesome, even more than it already is. So let's hope. I like, you know, I like to see the show continue and get funnier, and I think she could be the one to do that. And then, of course, they would, especially until they actually build, you know, until they actually build Pandora over at Disney, they have to keep doing Bill and Ted so they can keep doing the stupid Avatar World joke over and over and over again until it's finally built. And this time it would be in the year 2105, if anyone still gives a shit, right? Oh my God. So, the other show, what would it be? If there is another show, there's all sorts of possibilities. Big name thing. Someone talked about John Carpenter's music. I mean, I would love to see that, and I would love to see, say, you know, Midnight Syndicate do a concert. I don't think that's going to happen. I think what we'll see, probably, is the return of Academy of Villains. It was such a huge hit this year, and the show was so damn good. I thought, holy fuck, they need to come back, and I hope they do come back. And of course, if you've gone on their website and checked around and looked at it, they've got all kinds of shows, and most of them have some horror themes. They did this one just for Horror Nights this year, and if they book them now, they've got a whole damn year nearly to come up with a new show, and they have more time, and they can work on it more, and they can make an entirely new show, completely different from what they just did. Of course, not too different. There'll still be acrobatics and all kinds of theater going on, as well as, you know, brilliant moments. That whole Bohemian Rhapsody thing with the gloves, that was amazing. I'm sure with their creative, demented minds, they could make another horror-themed show that would just be even completely better than the House of Fear they did this year. And I really hope they can do it, because, damn, that would be amazing. And if Eddie is the icon, they might be able to work something in, because this time they had a Shady Brook theme, right, to kind of fit with Chance. So they might do something where they juggle chainsaws. Well, just a thought. work chainsaws into the show somehow. That would be awesome. So that's my speculation. A lot of it is, fanciful. It's not necessarily true. You never know what will actually happen. It could be nothing at all what I speculated, but that's just, this is speculation from 10 months before the event's going to start again next year. We got 306 days. So in a couple of months we may have completely different ideas, because we realize what we're thinking now just isn't going to happen, or it might be quite different. And who knows, we might start hearing something soon, because they leaked out information a lot earlier this past year than ever before. Leak isn't the right word. I'm not talking about leaks. I'm talking about actual revealed. I mean, they revealed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in April? The first one they talked about. God, April's only 5 months away. So, who knows? Very soon, we might, it might be just as early this year or next year that they find out what the first house is actually going to be. So you never know. It's all quite fascinating. And I'm sure all those lovely people at Universal are hard at work trying to figure this shit out. I don't know if they bother reading our forums at Nightmares or other places, at Orlando United, anywhere else on Facebook where they're speculating about this now, watching my videos. I flatter myself. Some people do watch my videos, but I don't think quite the way that I'd like to, or hope, or imagine. And who knows, maybe one of our ideas might be good enough, they might, hey, that's a good idea, I hadn't thought of that. But I don't think that's really going to happen. Sometimes it's just coincidence when that does happen. So who knows? All I can say is looking forward to it. I'm in Horror Nights withdrawal right now. Ooh, I've got the turkey shakes here. But as we all are, 306 days seems so long. But, it's like 26 was here faster than I expected. All of a sudden it's here. Now it's gone. It's over. Wait a minute. Wow. So you never know how fast it'll be. At least. So until then, this has been my speculation videos for the upcoming event, Universal Orlando Halloween Horror Nights 27, which I hope will be happening next year. Never know. Again, I don't want to be political, but some threats were made against the whole Universal and NBC Comcast corporation by a certain person who recently was elected president. And maybe he won't carry out those threats. I mean, he's changed his mind about Obamacare. He might change his mind about a lot of things. If he did destroy the company, there wouldn't be a Universal Studios and there wouldn't be a Horror Nights. Let's hope that doesn't come to that. Until then, this is Dr. Jimmy at your service. Until next time. Ta-ta.